I apologize that I put the wrong thing in the slideshow. So I will share that after service. That's my bad.
Thanks, Soren. So, friends, we are approaching the winter solstice, the shortest day of the year, the longest night. We're not quite there yet, but we're celebrating it today. And we're taking a moment to welcome the darkness, anticipate its coming, and remember the gifts that it has to bring us. The gifts of rest, the stars and the moon, the animals and plants that are at their best in the dark. Even as we also get ready to be excited that the light is finally going to start coming back, we want to take some time to appreciate the darkness. There are a lot of things that I love about the darkness. I find it really cozy. It's like a blanket wrapped around me. And like we heard in Martha's story, it is a good time for rest, and we need that rest. I love that things look different in the dark. And I love seeing how much light the moon and the stars can actually shine, especially on those full moon nights where it feels like it's daytime. I love the stillness of the dark, how it feels like we have slowed down to take that rest, how even if we are out doing things, everything has a calmer quality. And I also know that sometimes the dark is scary. If we can't see what's going on around us, there are more shadows, and our brains are really good at thinking that shadows are other things that we might not want to be around. And I think because these things can be scary in the dark, and I'm thinking especially of the people before us who couldn't just flip a light switch and bring the light in. When you light a candle, it only sheds a small amount of light. And so I think because of that, human beings have grown to think about and talk about the dark as a bad thing, a scary thing, a hard thing. When we say someone is in the dark about something, we mean that they don't know it and it might be important. One of the things we call a really hard time someone is having is a dark night of the soul. When we talk about a darkest secret, that's the thing you're most worried or scared or ashamed to tell anyone. Because of these worries we have around the dark, we've filled them into our language in a way that we talk about the dark as a bad thing only, and the light as a good thing. There's a really beautiful piece called Affirming the Beauty in Darkness. It's by a UU religious educator, Jackie James. And she talks about how the ways we use this language of dark and light can come from and reflect the ways we think about race too in our society. When every time we say dark and it's bad and light and it's good, black and it's bad, white and it's good, it teaches us something about our society and what we believe. And even when we don't realize it, we can take that internally and think about that, and it shapes the way that we are in the world. But the thing that I love about Jackie James writing about this is that she doesn't say we need to never say the dark is bad or never say the light is good. She says they are both necessary to our continued survival. So the ways in which we expand the ways we think and talk about light and dark, and I love that. I love that moment of inviting us to think about the ways that they overlap, the cycles that Martha told us about, the waxing and waning of the moon, the lengthening and shortening of the days. And I think too about how even on the brightest sunny day, there are spots of darkness. Actually, the brighter it gets, the more shadow there is in certain places. And in even the dark nights, the stars, the moon, or on those winter nights when the snow is on the ground, it is bright out still. Dark and light are not two totally separate things that never interact. They're all about overlapping with each other. And so I appreciate, as we anticipate the solstice, taking time to reflect on the beautiful things about the dark. The dark can be peaceful. It can be a time for contemplation, for taking deep breaths, for refreshing yourself, for sinking in and simply being. And the darkness is part of a cycle. It just can't be light all the time. I know in the summer when the sun is out longer and it's later, it's a lot harder for me to get quite as much sleep as I would like to get because it's so light out. And so I like the dark and having darkness at night, even when it's hard that it gets dark so early. I will be welcoming back the sun as it gives us a bit more light during the day, but also continuing to appreciate the night. There are plants and animals who need the cycle of the dark. Evening primroses and night gladiolas bloom at night. Without the dark, they would not bloom. Baby sea turtles, when they hatch and crawl their way out of their nests to the ocean, they do that in the dark and follow the light reflecting off the ocean so they know where to be. I think we appreciate the light more because it's dark, and we can appreciate the dark more because we have light. They are not good or bad, they just are, right? And the dark and the light can reflect different things in our lives at different times. And so we are going to take a moment now of grounding ourselves in the dark and appreciating the dark. I'm going to lead us in a guided meditation, and we're going to do it in a slightly darker sanctuary than we usually have. So Soren is going to turn off some of our lights for us, and Martha is going to hand out some electric candles. If you want to turn on your candle to represent the stars in the sky or the glimmer of light off the ocean or whatever other moment of light, that is part of the darkness too. So if you want to grab a light, or if you want to go to the back of the sanctuary where there's a little more light, that's also okay. So this is a meditation that I've adapted from the Reverend Sherry Woodbury. So I invite you to enter a moment of quiet, of stillness, whatever that means for your body. You might want to adjust the position of your body to relax it. Sometimes I find it gets relaxed a little better if I do a little bit of wiggling first. Let it wiggle into a relaxed place. You might want to close your eyes or soften them and just be present in this space. You might want to keep them open and look around to notice what is different in the sanctuary when we turn the lights off. And so I invite you to take a few deep, slow breaths in and let them out. And notice what your senses are telling you. You might, now that your vision is less present, notice some pressure on your body, in your back, or underneath you from sitting in the pews or your feet on the floor. You might begin to notice a bit more tension or tightness in your shoulders or your jaw. So I invite you to feel those things and then let go of the tension of the places where it feels tight. And continue to take deep breaths in and out. You might notice sensations that you don't usually notice now that we've taken a moment for stillness. a tingling in a muscle or ticklish feeling on your skin or your nose twitching. All these things that are happening in our bodies all the time, but that we don't notice until we slow down and take a break. You don't have to do anything with those feelings, just know and acknowledge that they're there. And then we can tune in to the sounds that we hear. What do you notice here in the sanctuary? Maybe your own breath, maybe a growling tummy, maybe someone near you shifting, and then outside of the sanctuary, cars on the street and wind. You can hear the sounds of this community here in this moment that sometimes pass us by when we are doing other things. But as we take a moment to ground and rest, what do you hear? Now imagine that your body and your mind are filled with a darkness and a silence that is comforting to you. Whatever that may look like, a night sky sprinkled with stars, or the deep, deep dark when you are under the cover of trees, whatever is a darkness that has been comforting to you. Imagine yourself there. Imagine the restfulness that you can feel. You don't have to try to do anything or make anything happen. Just be here in this moment, in this darkness. Take a breath in and let it out. In the quiet corners inside of us, let us sense the powers of our bodies, the ability of our soft animal body to fix itself, to make new cells and restore ones that have been hurt, to balance its systems that have gotten out of whack. And we can acknowledge too the healing and creative powers of our minds and our hearts. From these inner spaces of rest and groundedness and stillness comes all our writing, our speaking, our music, whether we are taking time to ground in it or it is what we are pulling from. Sculpture, dance, art, culture, all of these things, science, humanity, consciousness, those all exist deep inside us. And so holding all of this, I invite you to continue to be present with your breath. Rest just a moment longer here in the dark with me. And hold gratitude for the darkness that is grounded within us and the darkness that surrounds us, the ways it invites us into rest and stillness and replenishing our spirits. As you take one more deep breath in and let it out. As you bring yourself back to this time and place, and as our lights slowly start to come back, as they will start to do on the solstice, I hope that you can feel comfort in the darkness and the gifts that it brings. I hope that even as we get excited for the fact that the light is returning, you'll notice something in your life that is a gift of the darkness and welcome it as we come towards the solstice and hold it tenderly in your heart. May it be so, beloveds.